us in this. We had a little test out of some of these. So I said to you for the first one, that very archaic RP, which in fact only 2% of the population now speak. I thought you might want to, if you've ever seen, you know, the series The Crown, which documents the rise, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Happy birthday to you. Every word is very clear, right? There's no linking or anything going on. Happy. Are you happy?
You can all try it, guys.
It's your birthday.
Hey.
Try it again, Claire. Happy
birthday.
Birthday.
To you.
To you.
Happy birthday. To
birthday. To you.
All right, yeah, happy. I'm happy. All right. Right. Now we have to do a little bit of Cockney. So if you remember from when Liz was talking to you about White Van Man, hello, darling, you know, that. So White Van Man is probably an East End Londoner, a Cockney. Happy birthday to ya.
To ya.
Happy birthday to ya, darling.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. So what's happened to the TH? In fact, it's now become a F sound. And what's happened to the H on happy? It's gone, it's dropped. So what that's very typical of Cockney is that the initial H is dropped. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Birthday, yeah.
Have a lovely day. It's hot. It's hot. Yeah, there you are. So the initial H is very much a feature of Cockney, that dropped initial H. Okay. And then multicultural London English, which we said, you know, was a kind of bit of a mishmash, a bit of a blending. It's very similar to Cockney, except they don't tend to drop the initial H. Happy birthday, Chew. Happy birthday, Chew. Happy birthday, Chew. Right. So I don't know which one you like least, but there we are. That seems to be what's going on, certainly within London.
Okay. There's a good question here. About birthday from the dictionary. Yes, you see the word in isolation will be one thing.
Yeah.
It's like the word for, F-O-R.
F-O-R, yeah.
If I say, or write on the board, the word for.
Yeah.
If I put it into a sentence, it's going to change.
Yeah.
It's for you.
It's for you, yeah.
For you, you know.
But you get the schwa, yes. You get the schwa going on there, that's right. So which is not a feature of RP. Yeah. There's no linking or assimilation or schwa sound going on in RP. But yeah, you're right. So
can I just put something out? Because you reminded me, Claire. My son, we lived in other countries, and when he was very young, he heard English from me only. So he learned how to say a th. And he used to say th when he was 3 or 4. Then he went to school, and the English teachers could not say th in his school because we were in a foreign country. So then he started saying t all the time because that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
He lost the ability to say the th. That was kind of fun. Every time we came home in the summer, it would take him 2 or 3 weeks, and then I would start hearing him say th again.
Yeah.
And he lost it. And then we came back to England. He started school here, and I said to him, don't worry about it, because he became kind of self-conscious about this sound. I said, look, just say f, like fun or funny.
Yes.
It'll be fine. It'll come back to you, you know, at some point. And he spent the first year at school changing all the th sounds to f sounds. So it's actually a good strategy, and it will make your students sound intelligible. If they can't say a th is
that's coming up next, actually. There you are. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, yes.
All right. Screens now? Yeah.
So, what can we say at this stage? Let's have a look then at our next slides. Okay, we had a go on this, happy and happy. All right. So, the one before, please, Christina, the green one. Thanks. What can we say at this stage? Well, we've been leading up to this, I think, that 2 major changes have affected English accents in Britain over the last 50 years. One is that there's been a major attitudinal change affecting RP. It continues to have a very strong presence in broadcasting, but its phonetic character has changed. RP, what we now call archaic RP, is no longer seen as the only way or the correct way to speak. Second, and this is very much linked, regional accents have gained a much greater public presence through increased social mobility via TV drama, music, film. So we've got now a much, much greater increase in positivity towards certain regional accents and a rise in negative attitudes towards RP, which is now seen as distant, outmoded, posh, insincere. Okay. Many people today, then, as I've said, have replaced RP with something hybrid, a mix of RP and regional accent called modified, modern, or contemporary RP. Okay. All right. So next one, please. And this picks up something that you were saying earlier. Okay, a little bit of guesswork again for you. You can pop the answer in the chat. Now, back in 2016, linguists made the prediction that one particular phoneme would vanish from English within 50 years. And this would be due to a particular social phenomenon. So can you predict the two missing items in the gaps, please? What do you think linguists predicted back in 2016?
In the chat, we've had the letter J. I guess you mean a Y sound?
The
like
Y
yellow.
sound, yeah, the yod sound, the yod. Yeah.
Any other guesses? Pop them in the chat, or welcome to unmute and call out. Okay, a th or the, a h sound, the H sound, because of us foreigners. Oh, it's an option. H sound to vanish from English.
Like Cockney, yeah. Hello. How are you?
Hotel.
Yeah.
Herb
Right.
and herb. I never know what to say for that one.
The OUGH spelling, well, it has 7 different ways of pronouncing, of course, yeah. It's a good challenge for advanced students, this one, OUGH. 7 different ways of pronouncing it. Okay. Shall we reveal all?
Yes.
And it might make some of your students very happy. Okay. Well, here we are. We've got the news from the Telegraph back then in 2016 and the Sun. Okay. So, in fact, I think a few of you were absolutely spot on. It's the TH sound, so the voiced and the voiceless TH representation of TH and V to vanish because of multiculturalism, say linguists. All right, now, and here we've got the Sun, lovely, mother tongue, with Cockney and other dialects set to die out because of immigration. Okay, all right, so there we've got the lovely representation of mother as mother, your mother tongue. All right, so what's interesting, I think, about this is that back in 2000, Jennifer Jenkins, who is a name that you're going to be meeting when you look at the material on English as a lingua franca, she predicted back in 2000, and she identified the TH sounds, voiced or voiceless, as totally unnecessary for international intelligibility, because in non-native speaker to non-native speaker discourse. So it doesn't matter if you say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or I live with my mother and my brother, or I like this one and that one. In a multilingual setting, you will still be understood. And so possibly there are implications for teaching going forward. There's no point getting your students to spend hours and hours on th and the. A, some of them don't hear it, and B, how vital will it be from now on in a multicultural society where it's non-native speaker to non-native speaker discourse. Okay. All right. So we've got a couple of other little activities for you to try out now. If Christina pops them on now. based on what we know about pronunciation change and the influence of multiculturalism on the sounds of English, we're going to get you to try and pronounce some items that reflect these predicted changes. And there's a lot of technical stuff, but it's on the handout. I didn't want to get into it here. But there's a lot of stuff about, you know, the names of these things, like the glottal stop and yod dropping. So here are some items, traditionally left-hand side, and then things that may one day or are increasingly being pronounced like this on the right-hand side. So that's your first little activity. Try that. See if you can pronounce these. And then we've got another slide coming up where we've got 3 words beginning with P, and you're going to try and make them all sound the same. Okay, and that might be the future shape of these 3 items. Okay, so let's get into breakout and let's try a little bit of pronunciation. The future sounds of English, according to linguists. Let's do a little bit of practice together. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Can we get the list up again?
Okay, so we'll get out of gallery mode. I'll happy to do that. 1 second.
And then we can just try them out.
Yeah. Hold on. 1 second.
Okay, so these are fairly self-explanatory, I think. Let's try the ones on the right-hand side. So, Duke, news, Tuesday, dis, dat, fin, free, text, brother, water, bottle. Yeah, there you are. So the 2 at the bottom are the example of the glottal stop, right? Where you stop the flow of air through the glottis at the back of the throat. Water, bottle. Now, I noticed some of my students moving towards this, you know, I need some water. I'm just going to get some water. Bottle. Give me my bottle. And yeah, absolutely right. The first 3 are very representative of GSA or General Standard American. We have that intrusive y, the yod, right? And linguists say that this is an example of yod dropping. So instead of the the Duke, the news, the Tuesday, it's just going to become Duke, like New York. Okay. This and that. So this is going back to the TH thing that we said, the sound that is predicted to disappear by 2066. And you'll be hearing things like dis and dat and Thursday. And I want 1, 2, and 3. He's looking very thin. Okay. I text him. Why don't you text me later? This is my brother. Here's my mother. Okay. So kind of reminiscent these of A, American English, B, Cockney. All right. Well, now the more difficult thing was this, making the 3 items sound exactly the same, which is what they're predicted to sound like in one day in the future, possibly. My husband's called Paul. In the summer, I like going in the swimming pool, and don't push the door, pull it. Pull, pull, pull. So what's happening is the L, that very strong, previously quite strong L consonant sound, is disappearing. It's becoming much softer, and it's in fact being substituted by a W sound, the dark L. It's called the dark L, and it's very much a feature of London English or Cockney English. Paul. So, all right. Now this in no means, I'm by no means suggesting that you now go and teach your students, you know, swimming pool and push and pull. No, of course not. But it's out there. That's you know what I'm trying to show you, that there are changes afoot, or changes are coming, and where are these changes coming from? Okay, so let's kind of draw some conclusions, please, with the next slide, maybe. All right. Okay, so to kind of summarize this then, RP, what we now label archaic RP, was once upon a time highly prestigious. You fought to lose your regional accent. And regional accents were associated with character traits. So the Cockney guy was kind of cheeky, you know, and he might rip you off a little bit and take your money, not very honest. Okay, and as we've said then, RP considered now outdated, unnatural. Even the Queen doesn't speak like the Queen anymore. Okay, so today it's much more about social change and social mobility than ever before. Pronunciation has always changed. There's nothing surprising about accents coming and going. Okay, but the most noticeable trend in today's Britain is the emergence of a set of ethnic accents reflecting the origins of our immigration and the groups that we have. I don't know if you know this, but today in London, there are around 300 different languages spoken in today's modern London. So it's increasingly common to hear English spoken with accents that reflect these different cultural backgrounds. So today, RP is 2% of speakers in the UK. It's stigmatized almost. Even the Queen has modified her accent over the years, moving much towards estuary English, like Princes Harry and William. The UK is becoming a much less classist society. Young people especially are taking on the accents of communities around them, Bangladeshi, Arabic, Afro-Caribbean. Okay. So let's go on then to a last point maybe. And this is, how does this impact us as teachers? What do we take away from all this for our students' needs and for our teaching? We know that there is a shift in pronunciation. We've tried out some of the sounds, but let's think a little bit about, you know, how does this impact on us as teachers of English as a foreign language? So let's get into gallery and see if anyone's got comments to make about this.
Try to unmute yourselves, and we'd love to hear, you know, what you think some of the implications or takeaways might be, you know, for you and maybe in the future for students.
Someone's got a raised hand.
Yes, please. Yes, sorry, Kat.
Well, I believe it's not practical to teach students really how to adopt new pronunciation, but how to be able to understand different kinds of speakers, both foreigners and natives, with doing a lot of listening with pronunciation particularly in mind. That's what I sometimes do. Not that I have too much time for that, but I find it useful.
Good, yeah. So I think that's the idea of exposing students to different accents, as you know, the receptive skills, not the productive skills. Absolutely,
Exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, okay. Yeah, I see the logic in that for sure. Yeah, and you know, when you look at course books, modern day course books, they do have Australian English, South African speakers, they have Canadian speakers, Irish speakers. It's not just the sort of Hugh Grant or the Queen anymore, right? They are the Scottish speakers and so on. So I think, you know, that's in nowadays, thanks to websites and YouTube and Netflix, it is possible for students and in our classrooms to read and to hear most varieties of Englishes at the touch of a button as listeners. Okay.
Ivana had her hand up, I think, and then took it down. But Ivana, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, Ivana, sorry, I wasn't sure who it was. So it moves around. Hi, Ivana.
Yes. I just forgot what I wanted to say. Yeah. My priority as a teacher is conversation and encouraging students to speak up, and no matter the accent or the pronunciation. So that's why the criteria are quite low at this point, but the priority is a priority. So I don't force the pronunciation part. So I would encourage them, if they cannot pronounce a the they pronounce it as, as they hear it.
As a
Not
different
everyone has an
phoneme.
ear for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, as a different phoneme, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Of course.
As long as they're intelligible, right,
Of
to their listening partner, right. And there is this phenomenon called there's accommodation, isn't there? There's this thing about you move closer, almost. You kind of what's it called in the Cambridge exams? Being oh, I can't remember now. A sympathetic listener or something like this. That's right.
Of course.
Yeah. As long as you are, this is what English as a lingua franca's most prized message is. Intelligibility is the key. And we're not teaching students, to speak like the Queen, right? That model is gone. Yeah, that model's dead now, right? Students are getting much more exposure to non-RP accents, and that is the way forward. Really, if you as a teacher are an effective, intelligible speaker, what does it matter if you speak English with a Spanish accent or a German accent? I speak English with a Scottish accent. And does it matter if your students express their opinions with I think rather than I think, right?
The thing is that they can tell.
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah.
They can tell the American English from the British English, and that's all. Not everyone has an ear for that, or is a listener, as I say. Not everyone is talented one. So I don't push that.
No. There are other priorities in the classroom than pronunciation, for example, or phonology. Exactly. All right. Yes. Yeah.
Super. Other comments from other people? Yeah. Thanks, Ivana. Anyone else want to contribute? Yes, please.
I have a question, actually. Okay, when we talk about sounds like the and stuff that troubles us as non-native speakers, but what about when our students say things like but instead of but, and I don't know, things that are more specific to maybe north of England? I know I've heard them.
But regional.
And love instead of love. Should we correct that or not? I'm really not sure.
Do you have students that speak with a northern accent?
They don't even realize it, but it's just when they read, especially when we start reading, and then the U letter, it's U in Serbian, so they just naturally say it that way. And I noticed that I stopped correcting them.
Right, okay. Yeah, because it doesn't impede the message.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It doesn't impede the message. Or if it's
they say London instead of London.
London, yeah, that's all right. I don't mind about that. But I think sometimes you can point things out. You can put a more sort of socio-cultural slant on it. Some people in the UK say bus, right, or bath. Rather than the bath, which is the long vowel sound, right? And I mean, you as a teacher are, you're the pronunciation model for your students quite often. That's the only English they hear quite often. And I do think you can sort of point things out to students, perhaps. Look, why don't you try saying it this way? Lots of people find it easier to pronounce it this way. Have a go. Right, but or bath or bath, right? And I think if you come at it from that approach and not from the approach of this one's right and this one's wrong, which was a very traditional approach with RP, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Good question. Good question. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes. Other questions or comments?
Shall we move on to our last thing then? Because I think we're kind of rounding off a wee bit now.
All right.
A wee bit. That's a Scottish word.
A wee bit. I say that too.
Okay. So we had a little bit of discussion going, and I'm sure it will continue on Facebook. Well, I think this is what we have to sum up, and this is Mark Hancock, who is one of the most prominent writers of pronunciation material working today, and he's got a lovely website, lots of activities for free. British English, American English. Okay. Well, of course, learners have different needs. Yes, we know this. All right. Teachers have different accents. Yes. Okay. Few learners acquire the precise accent of the model. And they need, this is what one of the ladies was saying about exposing students to a wide variety of accents via listening practice. Learners need a receptive tolerance of a range of accents. Okay. I think linguists estimate now that non-native speakers of English outnumber native speakers by a staggering, let's have the next slide please, a staggering 5 to 1. And this is, oh, maybe it's not on there, okay. David Crystal in 2019 gave this statistic. Non-native speakers of English outnumber native speakers by 5 to 1. And approximately something like 80% of the world's interaction in English worldwide takes place with no native speakers there at all. So this has obviously got big implications for the classroom. Okay. If your learners are going to be exposed one day to non-native speakers more than to native speakers, they need to hear them more, as we've already mentioned, with this receptive tolerance of the range of accent. Okay. So I think the phonological change, what is the consequence of phonological change? That what consequence will it have on the way that we teach English as a foreign language? Well, I think David Crystal says something like this, you know, if teachers are used to teaching British Standard English and received pronunciation, they will continue to do so because that is the variety they know best and they feel most comfortable with. But when it comes to comprehension, both listening and reading, then things do change here because students will enter an English-speaking world where British English or RP is already a minority dialect. And RP is a tiny accent within British English, 2% of the population. So students do need to be exposed to as many varieties of English as possible. And thanks to websites and YouTube and Netflix, it is possible now to hear and read most varieties of English at the touch of a button. And what someone was saying earlier about bus versus bus, you know, I mean, give a socio-cultural flavor to this. And I think you can say, you know, this is the American way, this is the British English way. Some people in the north of England call it a bath. Scottish people go for a bath. People in the south of England go for a bath. You know, get your tongue around it. Which one sits easier in your own mouth? You know, try it out both ways. Do you like it? Okay. And I think maybe that's the way to come at it. But we don't want to produce little replicas of the Queen or little replicas of Hugh Grant, because they will not survive in the world of modern English discourse. Okay, and that's all I have to say on the matter. So thanks very much to everybody for coming and participating.
And thank you to all of our partners for helping to make all this possible. Okay, keep checking. I'm going to stop sharing in a second. Keep checking the Facebook. All right.